All right, we are now recording Encounter 25 for our Beginning Biblical Hebrew Segment 2, using Kutz and Josberger's Learning Biblical Hebrew, reading for comprehension. We're now starting 25, which is on page 305 in the textbook. It's on III-Vav and III-Yod verbs. There's a lot of information in the chapter. We're going to try to work through it as neatly as we can and go ahead and begin to tackle Ruth chapter 4. On the presentation I put 10 verses. We'll see what we can get through, or if we make it that far at all. So as we get started, here we are. We're going to look at the joy, if we can call it that, of III-Vav and III-Yod verbs. I say joy because I think it's a good idea to come to these things with a positive outlook, and try to tackle them as if they're not the punishment that a lot of people think they are. So here we come at III-Vav and III-Yod verbs. I wrote a blog entry this week, by the way.
I thought we were doing first Vav and Yod.
No, we're on 25 because nobody showed up last week, so we put the lesson off. So last week we didn't do 25 because nobody came. So this week we're doing it.
Got it. So I was reading 26.
Yeah. So that gives you a foot ahead. It gives you a foot ahead for next week. So as we begin, there are two kinds of roots that have an ending in the letter He. So I wanted to ask if maybe you picked up from your reading, what is the visual difference that we see between Gava, for example, and Bana that we see there on the screen? Anybody know what the difference is and what's happening there?
Yeah, the one that ends with He, that really ends in He, and also the one that ends with a long vowel.
So in other words, the one that has the dot, that is the mapik, the He mapik, is a real consonant. And so this is the real consonants, G, B, H. And the word Gava will not drop that He. The He is actually part of the root. But if there's no mapik in the end of the word, this is actually a vowel letter. And historically, it was either Yod or Vav. Okay?
Yes.
If you look at page 305 in the textbook at the bottom in footnote number 1, it actually shows two examples of words that are found in the Bible that haven't converted, like they didn't convert the Vav or the Yod. So we see in Job 3:26 the word shalavti. We would expect it to be shaliti because the Vav would drop out and it would be replaced by the vowel shaliti. And then the other word, chasayu, from Deuteronomy 32:37, chasayu, we would expect it to be chasu, where the yod just drops out. We're going to see that there are a couple of things that can happen to the vav/yod. Either it can drop out completely and be replaced by another vowel, or it can coalesce. Okay, we're gonna see a couple of examples. So when He appears at the end of a word, it's normally a vowel letter. We already know that, I believe. Notice that when you have the word la, like to her, it's not a vowel letter. There's mapik in there. It's a real H, a real He. When you have the third person, or the third person feminine singular suffix, her, like her house, beita, it's a real H. It's a He with mapik. Or bita, her daughter, or Susa, her horse, or Ba'ala, her husband. All of the third person feminine singular suffixes have a real H. So when we see a vowel before them, that's why the H takes the ha, because eleha, to her, that's a real H and it can take a vowel. Okay, and also the word Eloah, God, Eloah. It's a real H on the end, and that's why it's acting like every other guttural letter and taking furtive patach, Eloah. All right, so here we go. The dot called mapik in the He indicates that it is a consonant and not a vowel. In most verbs that end in He in the third person masculine singular form, He is a vowel letter, and that vowel goes through several changes when we go through the other forms of the verb. It may coalesce, we already said, or drop completely from the word. These represent words that were originally third Yod or third Vav. If you look at the top of 306, you have examples of the Yod or Vav coalescing and of it dropping out. It coalesces in a form like galiti, which is gala, galiti, and it disappears or drops out in front of vowels like galu, where the Yod is completely gone. Okay. All right, so generalizations about lamed Yod verbs, lamed Yod, lamed Vav. We're generally going to still call them lamed He. Okay, we're still going to call them lamed He because real roots that have He are lamed guttural. They're third guttural. When you say lamed, lamed is like third, because pa'al, lamed is the third root. So we say third Yod or lamed Yod. So the root originally ended either in Yod or in Vav. It doesn't matter which it was because it behaves identically. So it's only theory. We should consider it only theory, even though there are a few forms like this that do remain in the text of the Bible. Normally, these things would appear in words other than in verbs, like shalev. Shalev is a word that means like tranquil or quiet, and it's from this word shalavti, that I would be at ease, where in other forms we would expect the vav to drop out. Okay. All right, since lamed He, that is with mapik, that's the real lamed He, is just another guttural root like lamed chet or lamed ayin, it's common to refer to it as third guttural, and to the third Vav and third Yod really as third He. We still call them third He. So generally, a appears in the perfect, where e appears in the imperfect with these third He roots. So notice the meaning of gala or gali, gimel lamed Yod or gimel lamed He. You can call it either one. In the various binyanim on the next slide, they all have either to do with exile or deportation, or with revelation, uncovering something. Since Gimel Lamed He, this root, appears in all of the binyanim, we'll consider its forms in the following slides with its various meanings. Okay, so here we go. First of all, the word for exile is either gola or galut. It's used, both words are used in Jewish literature, and it refers to exile like the Jewish people went into exile under Babylon and also under Rome. Exile, deportation, they were taken away, like we have here in this picture of the Romans burning the temple in Jerusalem and carrying the people away into captivity. So what we say is that the Jewish people lived in captivity until the establishment of the modern state of Israel, where we came back to Israel in not all Jews, but most of the world's Jews outside of the United States came back to Israel. Also, it should be noted that the name of the last book in the Christian Bible is called Hahit Galut, the Revelation. Okay, it's from the root Gimel Lamed He, Hit Galut, Lehit Galot, to be revealed, something that is revealed. This is the opening of the first chapter of the book of Revelation in Hebrew. It says, Hitgalut Yeshua Mashiach, Shenatan lo Elohim kidei la'arot la'avadav et asher tzarich liot bimhera. The revelation of Jesus, the Christ, that God gave him in order to show to his servants what must take place quickly or soon. This is the beginning of the revelation. That's what it's called, Hahit Galut, from our root that we're going to be looking at now, Gim Lamed He, or Gim Lamed Yod. So we're first going to look at the perfect. Perfect meaning, of course, the past tense. So, and Jonathan is joining us. Hello, Jonathan. You've missed a little bit, but I think you're fine. All right, so what I've got, how I've got this is arranged here is kal on the left. Then we've got nifal, which is the passive of the kal. We have pl, pual, the passive of the pl, hifil, hofal, the passive of the hifil, and then hitpael at the end, which is by itself. Okay. All right. So what I want to do to get the feeling of how these roots like relate to each other, instead of going through the kal, for example, I want to go through the first person common singular. Go from the kal to the nifal to the pl to the pual, and then look at each different form as we go through them like that. Ward, do you mind taking us through the 1CS, the first common singular form, through each of the different binyanim, all the way to the hitpael? Just read through them.
Galiti, Nigleti, Giliti, Guliti, Higliti, Hogleti, Hitgaliti,
Yeah,
Hitgaliti.
great. A pattern that you can see in the biblical form is that in the active we have E, the He becomes E, that is in the Kal, in the PL, and in the Hifil. But in the passive we have A, Nigleti, Guleti, Hogleti. This isn't going to hold true for modern Hebrew, and even in the Bible you will see this going back and forth, but this is a general rule, like observance that makes it interesting. Like if it would stick to this, it would be perfect, but it doesn't stick to it. And sometimes you have, I think in modern Hebrew we use the E almost exclusively. Nigleti. I think it's E. I don't know that we use that, but anyway, that's the idea, is to feel that the He drops out. So you've got Galiti, Nigleti, Giliti, Guleti, Higliti, Hogleti, and Hitgaliti. To feel that He drops out and is replaced by a vowel letter. Hosea, the same thing from Galiti, the second masculine singular. Go through each one real quick. It's going to be basically the same as the 1CS.
Okay. Galita, Nigleta, Gilita, Guleta, Higlita, Hagleta,
That's the whole file.
Hogleta, Hitgalita.
Yeah. What could this be instead of O? There could be a different vowel right there. Instead of Hogleta, we could have, there's an alternate form of the Hofal.
The Shurek.
We'd say Kubutz. Kubutz.
The who.
Shuruk is the full Vav. The Kubutz is the three like this. So it could be Hug. Hugleta. Hugleta and Hogleta are the same thing. All right. So the same thing happens with the feminine. Galit, Niglet, Gilit, Gulet, Higlit, Huglet, and Hitgalit. What happens here, Jonathan, with the 3FS in each form?
So we have Galata, Niglata, Gilata, Gulata, Higlata, Higla, Hoglata, Hitgalata.
Yeah, so in all cases that He actually turns into a Tav, just like it does in the construct in nouns and in adjectives, turns into a Tav, and then the A is added. Fantastic. All right, I'll do this one. Gallinu. Okay, this means we went into exile. Gallinu. Niglenu means that we were uncovered, like we appeared, we were revealed. Gilinu, we uncovered something, we revealed something. Gulenu would also be revealed.
Never mind.
Higlinu, we sent into deportation or sent into exile. Hoglenu, this is the very active, it happened to us, like they did it to us, we were deported. And then hit Gallinu, you would never say this for real. You don't, like, we are not a mystery and we're not a secret. And it's kind of weird to have hit gala in the other persons besides the third. Like you would say that the secret was revealed, hit gala sod. You could say something feminine. The truth was revealed, ha'emet higlata. The truth was revealed. You could do it in the plural maybe, but all of the first person, second person here really is unnecessary, because you don't talk about I was revealed, as you know, it's not really like that generally. It was revealed concerning me, idea. But you can see the idea that the hey drops out, right? There's nothing too difficult here. Is there something too difficult here? I tend to really like the weak roots, so I see them as more fun than challenging. But is there anything that isn't clear for you what's happening here?
I just think they're stupid.
Hey, no, they're not. They're wonderful.
They're easy and stupid.
If you know what's happening in the kal, as far as the shape is concerned, you shouldn't have too much difficulty recognizing the rest of the binyanim. Okay.
One thing that I would say, if you haven't said it already, are you calling these third yod or third hey verbs?
I call them third hey because
Okay.
the real third hey is actually a third guttural. It behaves just
Yes.
like ein and chet.
So the thing that helps my students when I tell them is that most third heys were originally third yods. So that's why we see the yod come back in all of these forms, like galit and galiti, Gallinu, galitin,
So
galitin.
covering the perfect, I think was pretty simple. The imperfect, we'll see how that is. Here comes the imperfect. So where we had gala in the past, in the future we're going to have egle or yigle. Okay, the is representative of the hey in the past, and the is representative of it in the future. Okay, so he will go into exile. Who? Yigle. Yigle. You will go into exile. Ata tigle. I will go into exile. Ani egle. You feminine at tigli. And she, he tigle. Anachnu nigle. Atem tiglu. Aten tiglena. That's the only strange thing about because think if you had the hey here, you put the hey, tiglena, with a hey, it would be really strange to have a vowel hey in the middle of a word. When hey is acting as a vowel, it doesn't go in the middle of a word. It will drop out and become yod. Tiglena means you feminine will go into exile, you feminine plural, and yiglu, they will, tiglena, they will is feminine. Okay? I need to kill this application I have open on my computer.
It wasn't me.
Makes noise. Yeah, not this
Wasn't
time.
me.
All right, so Ward, take us through yigle, from the kal to the nifal, piel, pual. This is hifil, hofal, and hitbail. If you must, John, mute your microphone.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yigle. Yigale.
Can you, what's going on here with yigale? What's going on there? With
the noon has been assimilated into the gimel.
Absolutely beautiful. The noon has been assimilated, and the third hey takes that S sound. Beautiful. This one?
Yale.
Yigale. Why is this lamed doubled?
We're PL, right?
PL, good. So that's the middle radical. Gimel lamed hey. The middle radical is double. This one?
Yegule.
Why is this one doubled?
Because you're still in the PL group.
Yeah, it's we're still in the doubled group, right? The doubled active, doubled passive, and then we've got doubled down here also. What's that?
I'll be right back. I need to get up for a second.
All right. So this one here is?
Yagle.
Exactly.
Yogale.
What we've got going on here, what we've got going on there is that the root would have a hey in it, right? But when it's yehagle, the hey like drops out. Instead of yehagle, yagle. So that happens in all of these forms where the hey in the he feel and in the hofal, the hey just drops out because it follows a prefix that has a shva. Yehagle becomes yagle. Tehagle, tagle. Yehaglu, yaglu. Okay, the hey just drops out. The the between vowels hey drops out. Okay, same thing here. What's this one?
Yogle or yoga? Is it yogale or yogle? Either one.
Yogle.
Yogle.
And this is what binyan is this?
That would be the hofal.
Hofal. Good. Good. So in all of these cases, you see all of them have an A, like the end vowel is an A rather than A. And this one here?
Yigale.
Great. Jose, I want to give you a more challenging one and have you take the Tiglena form. Tiglena through all of the different
okay. Tiglena. Okay. Tiglena. Oh, the same. No, tiga. Oh, okay. Tiga. Okay. And dobling. Tigalena.
Because the nifal, when that's doubled, it likes to have its full vowel. This one is closed syllable, and that one's full vowel.
Tigalena.
So what's the difference in pronunciation between this one and this one?
Tiga. You have doubling in the lamed there. So tigalena. And also short.
This one has shva.
Yeah. Tiga.
So it's tigalena.
Tigalena. Tigalena. Tigalena. Tigalena. Tigalena. Okay. And then
you can look through the nifal real quick and notice in all of the cases the normal nifal at the beginning of a root has
doubled.
Tigalen, tigali, tigale, yigale, and whatever. This, of course, if they're guttural, it's going to become a. But with the first person, it's and before a guttural will become a as well.
And then we'll reveal Tigalena, and then Tigulena.
And you feel that u vowel turns the verb inside and makes it passive. Tigulena, Tigalena is active, and Tigulena is passive.
Okay.
So we're really going to see this where like midaber means speaking, but midubar is passive and it means spoken.
Interesting.
Midubar, that u vowel turns it inside.
Okay. And then taglena. And then toglena.
And toglena could also be tuglena, right? It could be hufal or hufal. So again, that u quality vowel, the u or the o turns it inside, makes it passive. Okay.
So they're just interchangeable, no? The tu and the to in the hofal and the hufal. No?
You will see forms that have u and forms that have o, and it's the same meaning.
Titgalena. Titgalena. Okay.
So in all cases, the hey drops out, and before the na ending, it becomes yod. Okay,
Mm,
that's a special
yes.
feature of the III-Heh verbs.
III-Heh.
Jonathan, which one do you want to do? The third common plural?
Sure. Okay, so, well, that's the nigla is the first common plural, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. No,
Okay,
it's first common plural, yeah.
yeah, I thought you said third. All right,
Oh, sorry.
nigla, nigala, nigala, nagula, and then nagla, gala, nagala,
What's this one?
nag. Oh no,
This
sorry, nogla,
binyan is
no,
hofal. Mhm.
nogla, and then nitgala. I should have
Mm.
known that. I'm too old in Hebrew to miss those kametz katus. Shame on me.
I think that the idea that I want to point out is that we shouldn't feel like too many unexpected things are happening here. I think that at this point we've talked enough about weak vowels or weak roots that we can kind of understand that they behave funny, but it's predictable. And as long as you can look at a form and say, okay, I can see there's that tiglena, that yod there signals that something weird is going on, and that's probably a hey, gala. And then you can find the root and know what it means. Okay, so that's the idea, that you can recognize it more than produce it. We're going to look now at Vav consecutive and Joseph forms. Vav consecutive is, of course, our narrative past in the Bible, and Joseph is the volitional form, let him do it, may he do it. All right, so third Vav or third Yod, which we call III-Heh, will have short forms for Josephs and Vav consecutives because they drop the syllable with the Hey, generally. Doesn't have to be. There can be short form or long form imperatives. We don't need to memorize them. As long as you know the short form, when you see the long form, it kind of will make sense. For example, we know that imperative to eat, I don't know if you know it, but you've seen it. Echol, echol, to eat. Let me eat something, echol. It can also be ochla. Ochla can also be an imperative. We have a long form imperative. We have the word lech, go, lech. But you could also have a long form imperative, lecha, which means the same thing, go. So it is here we can have long or short form imperatives, and we don't need to really worry about memorizing them or something like that. What we do want to look here is just to compare the forms between it's kind of what we already did. Gala, nigla, gila, gula, higla, hogla, hitgala. We looked at these. I didn't intend to do it that way before, but I think it was a good idea how we did it just now. Let's look at this line real quick. Yigle, yigale, yigale, yigule, yagle, yogle, yitgale. When we do Josephs, we're going to see that the hey drops off and we have vowel rearrangement. So yigle drops the hey, it becomes yigel. Okay, this is let him go into exile, yigel. Yigale, the e drops off and we've got yigal. Yigal. Kind of an odd one, but it's kind of odd for the nifal, but it's okay. Yigale, the e drops off. We also lose the gemination, the doubling of the lamed. Yigal. But we should know that like vayitzav and he commanded is a peel form. You remember we talked about that one. We had the word and he commanded. I'll switch over there real quick. We've had it in our reading, I think, a few times. Where we had the word yitzaveh, means he will command. Yitzaveh, he will command. To make it vav consecutive, which operates from the short form Joseph, we have vayitzaveh. The e ending drops off, and the dagesh drops off because we can't have a doubled letter at the end of a word. vayitzav. And in this case, because of skinim levu, we also lose the dagesh and the yod. So this is, and he commanded from the root, from the word yitzaveh, he will command. Okay, does that make sense? I think we've talked about that one before. Yeah. Okay, so what we're looking at just now was the word yigale. Okay. So what we have now is yigale. That would form its jussive by taking off the a ending, yigal, and the vav consecutive by adding the vav with patach. There's no need for a dagesh because of skinim levi. Okay. I hope that this is kind of setting in like what's going on, because we've talked about it a few times, and this is the topic we're going over now. So, any questions so far? Vayigal, and so on. These are vav consecutive forms. We've seen he saw, he built, he cried, he did, he bought, it happened, and he turned. We've seen all of these in our reading. Let's look, just talk about what they are. Ward, can you maybe explain to us what's happening here? Remember, the word for he will see is yir'eh. Yir'eh. It's third hey.
Right, vayar. Vayar. The vayar. No, I don't think I can.
It's a weird one. It is a weird one. And so essentially we're going to have yir, where we have the ending. We drop the and we've got yir. But yir they didn't really like, so they made it yar. Like I imagine because this makes a big distinction between the word he feared. He feared and he
I think I can tell you why. I think I can tell you why. I think it lengthens under the influence of the guttural resh, or the pseudo-guttural. I think that's why.
Maybe. Like it would normally go to something like vayevk, but it went to because of that feeling of the I don't know how guttural resh was, because resh was more on the tongue. Vayar. Today it's really
originally back of the throat. Leish.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was resh.
If you're a Sephardic Jew from Spain,
I thought it's like Arabic.
That's why they call it a pseudo-guttural, because it's pronounced in the back of the throat.
I don't know about that.
Well, that's the way. That's what I say.
What about Vayivan, Jonathan?
Well, it's a third hey, so the hey falls off, and then
what's the 3ms imperfect?
It would be yivneh.
Yivneh.
Yeah, so the hey falls off, and you still have the vayivan, and the accent shifts back, I think, because the hey falls off.
Okay, and then it lengthens this vowel right there to break the consonant cluster. In this case, they don't mind this consonant cluster for whatever reason, and VK is acceptable.
I have no idea why that is.
Yivke, he will cry, Yivke, became Vayivk, and they kept the cluster, and they just lengthened the vowel, Vayevk. Vayevk. Okay, Hosea, what's going on with this one, do you think?
Vayas. So you have an asa, a third hey, and then you drop the hey, and Then there's a
But
shift in
what's the
the.
future though? What's the future?
What's the future of asa?
Mm-hmm.
By asa. Wait. Yaas. Yaase?
Yaase. Yaase.
Yaase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it
All right, so
drops.
yeah,
Because.
let's look at that one. So
Sige,
Yaase.
let's see.
Mm-hmm. Gutturals play funny in that they do this. Gutturals will either have a pattern ya or ya'a, where this this composite shva is actually functioning as the end of the syllable. So that's kind of fun. Ya'ase, he will do. Okay, so to make the vav consecutive, you get va. Okay, we've got the dagesh, and we're going to have ya'ase. Okay, the a falls off, and now you have this weird situation where you have a half consonant trying to hold a syllable. The half consonant can't hold the syllable. You can't close a syllable with a chataf patach. So the accent is going to shift again because this is where it is, and they're just going to lengthen that to a full vowel. Vayas, vayas, and he did. Okay. Back to it.
Somebody tell me why
Vayas.
I'm yawning so much.
Because you
Sorry about
slept too
that.
much today.
No, I only
Slept
slept
too
for
much today.
6 hours. Nope, 6 hours.
Okay. What we have in the next three things, the three verbs here, are exactly the same as vayiven. And we're going to find that this is the most common pattern for words that are not used all the time. The reason these ones have odd forms is because they're used all the time. Words that are the commonest in usage are always the most irregular. So vayar, vayevk, vayas, okay, in the Bible at least, they were used more than he bought and it took place. Because normally vayiker, we're going to see vayehi, and it happened, vayehi. Vayifen, and he turned. Okay, this is from pana. Kara, it happened. Kana, he bought. Asa, he did. Bacha, he cried. Bana, he built. Ra'ah, he saw. Okay, that's what you should be able to recognize when you see those verbs. All right, so what about other forms? Like instead of saying, and he saw, what about and she saw, or and I saw? They operate pretty similarly, but they're going to be less common, so also less irregular. So instead, vayar is the irregular form of this word. If you say she saw, it's vatere, and then it's kind of like one of the other ones where you've got the accent shifted and you have eh. Vatere and she saw. Va'ere and I saw with an aleph here. Va'ere. And they saw va'yir'u. It's the exact form yir'u. The third masculine plural is always going to be the full imperfect form with the vav and kamatz dagesh. So yir'u, vayir'u, yivnu, vayivnu, yivku, vayivku, yasu, vayasu, yiknu, vayiknu. The form is exactly the same as the imperfect third masculine plural. Okay, so that's a relief. Most of the time, the form will be very similar to the first person, and they'll just add kamatz here instead of patach. Kamatz with no dagesh because aleph rejects it. Okay, that's fun. Imperative. Imperative just takes the future and drops the taf. Okay, in the third hey, we see a lengthening from segol to tsere in the second person singular. So tigle, gle, go into exile, gle. Okay. Gli, glue, glena. Okay, just take the T off of it. And that happens in all of the different types of roots. Take the taf off of the imperfect and you get the imperative. B'nei, build. K'nei, build, or buy. P'nei, turn. Re'ei, see. Chanei, camp, make camp. And these are the feminine forms with E, the plural forms with u and the feminine plural with ena. Okay, that's all the imperative amounts to. As long as you recognize that imperatives exist, that's enough. We need to deal with more common forms. You'll find short imperatives on pages 318 to 319. We're not going to worry about them so much. We're just moving on. Okay, can we just move on? Let's just move on. Infinitives and participles. The list of forms for infinitives is found on page 320. Okay, infinitive construct changes hey to ot in all binyanim. Okay, so if you look in the kal, galot, he galot, galot, gulot, haglot, hoglot, hit galot. Only in the pual and the hofal, you can't use a lamed prefix. You can't use to do it. It can only be used with suffixes or in the construct state. But in the rest of them, you can use them as complementary infinitives. So liglot is to go into exile, liglot. Lehigalot, legalot, lehaglot, lehitgalot, with lamed prefix that can be used for complementary infinitives. The infinitive absolute doesn't change the ot, doesn't change it. It's either o or e. Okay. Really not. It's really just not common enough to worry about, honestly. The one that jumps to mind with this, with the kal, is in modern Hebrew when you say once upon a time. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who lived in the field of Greece and whatever. The words once upon a time in modern storytelling is hayo, haya. Hayo is infinitive absolute, hayo, and then haya, there was. Hayo, haya. Once upon a time, there was. It could be hayo, haita. Once upon a time, there was. Haita yalda. There was a girl, or there was a woman. Haita isha. It's used with haya, there was, and it's like once upon a time, not just regular was. So in the participles, the kal has both active and passive. Apart from that, the nifal is passive unless it has like a deponent meaning, I guess, deponent. The pl is active and pual is passive, hifil and hofal, and then the hitpal is its own thing. So, for example, the kal active for this root, gole, gole. The feminine seems natural to say gola, right? That's the normal form. There is an alternative form because this is a yod. It's a yod root actually, golia. Golia is an alternative form. It's really not as common. It's normally gola. Golim, golot. This is how you use the present tense in modern Hebrew. So, yeah. The kal passive, galui, gluya, gluyim, gluyot. This means uncovered. Osh galui, an uncovered head. Nigla. Nigla.
Regel galui, uncovered feet.
Regel gluya. It's feminine.
Oh yes, of course, because it's a body part. Oops.
Rosh galui, you say. So, rosh galui, uncovered head. That's like if you're not wearing a kippah, if you don't wear a head covering. Kisui rosh is a head covering, and it's often for a woman as well. They put on like a scarf or a wig. But galui rosh is somebody with no head covering. Nigla, niglet. This is the normal form in modern Hebrew. Niglet, not nigla. According to the book, they're the same form. Nigla and nigla. I don't really like that. No, they say nigla and nigle. This should have a segol. Nigle. Niglim, niglot. Ignore this form, it's nigle. But the normal form in modern Hebrew is niglet, this 8 form instead of nigla. But I know that this does exist too. This looks exactly like the nifal past tense, by the way.
Kamete participles are much more rare than the other ones.
Mogle, mogla, moglim, moglot. Also, it could be mu, mugle, mugla, muglim, muglot. Mitgale, mitgala, mitgalim, mitgalot. Okay, the idea is just to see the endings. I just wanted to point out that Gesenius mentions this alternative oya, golia in section 94C, 94D, note C. That's important to me because this form shows up twice in the Israeli national anthem, where it's got the words Homiya and Sophia instead of Homa and Sofa. So that's why I had to learn that a long time ago. I didn't know this alternative. I only learned Gola. I didn't learn Golia. And then when I learned the national anthem, I'm like, what is this form? Sophia, but it's Sofa. All right, Sikum Dvarim, that means our summary of issues or of matters. Verbs that end in a in the third masculine singular are really lamed yod and not lamed hey. They could be lamed vav as well. But we can still call them lamed hey because lamed hey is designated as third guttural. That is lamed hey with mapik. When the hey drops out to make other forms, it's replaced by e, a, or eh. See, I distinguish that, a and eh. You don't really in your speech, but you should know that it can be either tsere or segol, like tiglena. Tiglena is with segol. The imperative is formed by dropping the tav of the imperfect. E will be lengthened to e, with tsere. Called masculine singular participles end in e, which lengthens to a in construct. So more is teacher, and more with tsere is like the teacher of the class. More hakita, the teacher of the class. Feminine will also change just like normal feminine nouns. So mora is teacher, it's a participle, mora, and it becomes morat, morat hakita, the teacher of the class. Vav consecutives and justives generally use shorter forms, as do some imperatives. These shorter forms lack the hey and often undergo vocalic changes. You don't need to memorize them all, but we kind of went over a lot of it just now. There's more information in the textbook, but that is just too much information. So let's get into the book of Ruth. But before we do you have any questions? Anything that that you didn't understand that sticks in your mind that you would like to ask about before we give up on our third Vav Yod and move into Ruth, and then next week with first Vav and Yod? We're good. First Vav and Yod are in the Kal, much easier because they all turn to Yod. And in the Nifal, they all turn to Vav. In the Hifil, they all turn to Vav. That's going to be maybe more frustrating next week than it was this week, because the first Vav and Yod are more problematic than the third. All right, so we are now in chapter 4 of the book of Ruth. You will be reading through it this week to meet together on Tuesday and cover all of it. So let's just read through and see if we can piece some things together so that we'll be ready for the reading on Tuesday. I feel like I've talked a lot in this lesson. So Hosea, do you mind reading this one for us? And then we'll go
Okay.
Jonathan and Ward.
Uvoaz Allah Hasha'ar Vayeshev Sham Vehine Hagoel Over Asher Diber Boaz Vayomer Sora Sheva Po Feloni Almoni Vayasar Vayeshev. Okay. And Boaz went up to the gate and sat there. And behold, the Redeemer Avar.
Passing by.
Passing by, sorry. And Redeemer passing by, which Boaz said to
Which he spoke. Which he spoke, meaning the one that he spoke of.
okay. Which Boaz spoke of, saying,
And he
Sora.
said,
And he said, okay. And he said, Sora. Sur. Turn aside.
Mm-hmm. So
Turn
normally
aside.
we would expect the imperfect here is yasur, he will turn aside, and the second person would be tasur, you will turn aside. So we would expect the imperative to be sul, just S-U-R, sul.
Yes.
But this is what we were talking about. There's a short form imperative which is sul, and then there's a long form imperative that adds an a, so it's surah. Surah means also turn aside. It's an imperative. And
It's
the
still
next
an
one also is long
imperative.
form. Yeah. The next one also is long
Surah.
form.
Sheva. Sheva, long form. Sit. And then you have
what's the
first
short form?
Shuv.
Shev.
Shev, sorry. Shev.
So it would be perfectly acceptable to say shev po, sit here.
Shev po.
But this is a long form imperative, sheva po. It means also sit here.
Sheva po. Sit here, and this is how he called him, Peloni, Almoni, whoever
it's
that
weird.
was.
The accent is written as Ploni Almoni.
Peloni,
but we actually
Almoni.
say it. We actually say it Ploni Almoni. Ploni Almoni means so and so.
Ploni Almoni. Yeah. Ploni Almoni, Vayasar, and he turned aside. And he turned aside and he sat down.
So this is the imperative, turn aside, surah, sur.
Yeah.
And this is him
Vav.
doing as the asked, the bayasar. And then he told him shva, and it says vayashiv. He sit and he sat. Sit and he sat. Turn aside and he turned aside. Very nice. Very nice. Jonathan, this is Ruth chapter 4, verse 2.
I'm there. Vayakach asra anashim miz.
That is a full vowel there. It's asara.
Yeah. Asara anashim mizikne ha'ir vayomer shavu fo vayeshavu. So, yes.
That's the pausal form where we would expect yeshev becomes yeshevu, and then secondary modification becomes yeshevu. So this is the return from the secondary modification to the original form, yeshevu.
So he took 10 men from the elders of the city, and he said, sit here, and they sat down.
Okay, so he's got the Redeemer, and he's got 10 elders of the city.
Why is it asra? Another long form.
No, this is always.
But it's feminine.
Feminine numbers go with masculine nouns.
Okay, I forgot about that. All right.
Long form numbers go with masculine nouns. So if it were women, nashim, it would be eser nashim and asara nashim.
That's weird.
It's how it happens in Hebrew, Aramaic, and in Arabic. It's just the long form is used for masculine and the short form is used for feminine, even though the opposite. All right, here we go. Ward, go ahead.
Vayomer Lagoel Hilkat Hashavde Shir Hashav.
What does Sadeh mean?
Field?
Sadeh we had in chapter 1 where they went to Moab, remember? The plain of Moab. So in this case, the Hasadeh is the field, right? So the portion of the field.
Asher le'atinu,
Le'achinu.
le'elimach,
Yeah, so
mara.
Elimelech is like,
Oh,
my God is king.
Elimelech, right.
The guy's name.
Elimelech.
Why does the Lamed here have Segol? Why is it Le Elimelech and not just Le Elimelech?
Because these
You
are
see what I'm
proper
asking?
name. This is a proper name there. And
It is a
so-
proper name.
And so
We
you'd be
help the
how
first
would
treating
out
that-
of
it.
it.
So you'd be treating it like a to the Elimelech, and so you'd lengthen it.
Not really. Not really. Think of this as putting a shva here, Le with shva, and it's up against what's coming up next. Can you have shva with another with like another composite
No.
shva? So when you
No.
have regular shva against a composite shva, the regular shva takes the full vowel of the composite shva.
So why is the vertical line next to the segel?
Because normally this vertical line is called meteg. Normally we went over in a large part of our first course about the rules of syllabification and what types of vowels can stand in open syllables and closed syllables and such. Normally we determined that this is an open syllable. In an open syllable that's unaccented, the accent is over here. Open unaccented syllable must have a long vowel, right? But segol is a short vowel. Segol is a short vowel. The meteg will serve to indicate the length of a vowel. It's going, in this case, it's going to tell us that it's okay that this is a short vowel in an open syllable. We know it's marked. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Okay. So the meteg is a bridle to mark either a long vowel in an unexpected syllable or a short vowel in an unexpected syllable. So this word here, machal, when the feminine becomes machra, machra, and that meteg right there is telling us that this might be mochra, it might be a closed syllable, but that meteg is telling us this is a long vowel. So this is ma and not mo. So the meteg serves to indicate vowel length for us. Kind of weird. It's a kind of odd system to put into place, but it is helpful. And so when we have a long vowel that's far away from the end of a word, I'll show you an example. We know generally that distant syllables, that's what we said, distant syllables, remember, want to reduce, right? We were pretty adamant about that in the past. But let's say we have the word anash. In Hebrew, it's enosh. Enosh is a person, human being, right? This, for whatever reason, the word ish takes its plural with that root. And instead of ishim, which we can say, there are times in the Bible where we see ishim, we actually see anashim. Anashim means people. So this is our accented syllable. And the near syllable is this one, so it's long. Near syllable is long. And the distant syllable is reduced. Okay, distant syllable is reduced. But if we put the article on it, what the article would want to be is ha with dagesh. The aleph rejects dagesh, and the kametz is, the patach lengthens to kamatz. What the Masoretes did is they marked this with meteg to tell us it's a long vowel in a distant syllable. It doesn't reduce, and it's okay. The meteg is going to be there to tell us that that's a long vowel in a distant syllable, and it doesn't require reduction. Okay, so the meteg is holding the full vowel and not letting it reduce. So that's what we see there, is that Elimelech It's a lot of information. Elimelech is the name of the dude. Okay. If we add lamed to it, okay, for two, these two short vowels can't be side to side together. They can't be there. So this one changes to eh. And then they just said, for good measure, we're going to tell you it doesn't need to reduce. It's okay. It doesn't need to reduce. Okay? All right. It might also be useful that the line also separates the vowels visually, because that's a lot of dots to have in one place. So it might also help visually. There was also a question that we had about the name Naomi. Okay, because well, we know that this is O, and we know that normally before O we have O again, no omi, no omi. But we see in the text that it's marked with meteg, and so a lot of people want to read it as Naomi, because meteg normally marks this as A instead of O. In this case, it's functioning exactly like it is in Elimelech, Le Elimelech, where it's not shortening the vowel, it's just serving to mark it and separate it. So this really is read no omi. No omi is her name, even though it has meteg. Okay? We're good? Back to it.
Yeah.
Sorry for these. I don't know
That's
if
a
they're
lot.
distractions or excursions.
That's a lot.
So we were here on
Makrach, Naomi, Hashavah, Mishrei, Moab. And so, and he said, Le Goel, I don't know Goel, Le Goel, to La Goel.
Goel is our technical word for a kinsman redeemer.
To La Goel, to the Redeemer. Halekat Hasadeh. Lekah. I don't know.
So Helek is part. Helkat Hasadeh is the portion of the land, the portion of the field.
The portion of the field, which I assume that's our brother Elimelech.
Yeah.
Or
this is so it's the portion
Elimelech.
of the field that belongs to our brother, to Elimelech. That's the lamed. The lamed prefix is belonging to.
Makah, which that be to buy somehow?
It's the opposite. Selling.
To sell. That'd be
we're going to read this for whatever reason. We're going to read this perfect as the present. She's selling it.
Which Naomi sold.
This is Lashuv. Lashuv.
Oh, when she returned.
Okay, so I need to head out. I'm losing it. I'm fading. All right, bye, folks.
Goodbye. When she returned from the fields of Moab.
So it's not really temporal, it's identity. It's not saying when she returned, but the one who returned. Naomi,
the one who returned from the fields of Moab.
Yeah. The root chet lamed kuf generally has to do with dividing something up. Okay, so it could be, it's used for like a division of opinions, like a disagreement. It's called machloket. Machloket, it's chelek. Chelek means part. Lechalek is to divide. Lachlok is to share. Chelkat hasadeh is the portion of the field. So the portion of the field of our brother Elimelech, this word asher le'achinu, which to our brother, this has been transformed in modern Hebrew from asher le to shel achinu. Chelkat hasadeh shel achinu machra Naomi hashava misde Moav. So that means of, essentially. The portion of the field that belongs to our brother Elimelech, Naomi, who came back from the fields of Moab, is selling it, or has sold it, either one. Okay, next. Ooh, that's a big one. Va'ani amarti egle. This is a word that we covered today, egle. Oznecha lemor k'nei neged hayoshvim v'neged ziknei ami im tig'al ge'al. Okay, this is an imperative. If you would like to redeem, then redeem. Im tig'al ge'al. V'im lo yig'al. Okay, if he doesn't want to redeem, hagidali. This is hagedli. This is a long imperative, long form imperative. Tell me, va'eda, and I will know. Tell me, and I will know. Ki en zulatecha lig'ol, there is no one beside you who's supposed to redeem her. Va'anochi acharecha, and I'm the one after you. Vayomer anochi egal, and he said, I will redeem her, or I am willing to redeem her. Okay, so I said to him, egle oznecha. Egle oznecha. That's an interesting expression. Egle oznecha. Oznecha is your ear. Egle. I will. It's weird because we said the kal means to go into exile, but obviously that's not what it means. It has to do here with like revealing something to his ear. He wants to give him a secret. He wants to tell him something, and he wants to tell him news. And he said, this is saying, okay, so purchase in front of the inhabitants and in front of the elders of my people, if you would redeem, redeem. Okay, so make purchase in front of these witnesses. Okay, if you would redeem, then redeem, and if you won't redeem, I wonder why it says yigal, the third person. Tell me, and I will know, because there's no one beside you who is to redeem, that is, redeem her, and I am after you. And he said, I will redeem her. So I think he's taking the responsibility. He's going to go ahead and do it. This Ploni Almoni guy. He says that he'll do it. But I think that Boaz wants to go out of his way to convince him that he's not the one for her. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Vayomer Boaz Beyom Kenotekha Hasade Miyad Noomi Umeet Ruth Hamoabia Eshet Hamet Kaniti. Okay, Kanita. Okay, Kanita. Lehakim Shem Hamet Al Nakhalato. Okay. And Boaz said, on the day you purchase.
Notice this is kana, and the ot is the infinitive construct. Knotcha. Knotcha, your purchase.
Infinitive construct, yes. Infinitive construct. Okay. Purchase the field from the hand of Naomi and from Umeet.
This is from, but we're going to translate this u as also.
Also from Ruth.
This is talking about the children from her.
Oh yeah. Meet, yeah. Umeet. And from Ruth, the Moabite, Tess, Eshet, wife of the dead.
Yep, the wife of the dead one.
Yeah, the wife of the dead one. Hamit. Kanita, you purchase from Hakim. From Hakim.
This is lakum, but in the hifil. Lakim,
La-
to establish, to raise
To
up.
establish. Okay. And for nakalato. His nakal. Is this a relation?
It's his inherited portion.
Inherited. Okay. For the
Mhm.
inheritance. For his inheritance.
So the portion that his family has, if you purchase this field from Naomi, you also have to purchase the obligation to raise a family for this dead guy. He's trying to talk him out of it. And so that takes us back to the previous verse. The word kene here, purchase. He's talking about purchasing the field and also purchasing the girl. That if purchase the field, and if you would redeem her, also redeem her. Like it goes together.
I see.
Okay. Here we are
So you're
in
saying
verse 6.
there are hidden charges. No, just kidding.
Yeah, there are hidden obligations. There's a fine print.
ויאמר הגואל לא אוכל לגאל
Ligol.
לגאול.
See, this is this makaf joins it to the next word, ligoli, and once it's joined, then this becomes a short. It's a short closed syllable.
Okay.
So it's ligol. They actually wrote it with vav, which is how we would write it today, and it's fine, ligol. But the Masoretes are saying we can't have this long vowel in a closed syllable, so we have to read it as ligol, ligoli.
לגאולי בן אשרית את
Ashchit.
נעלתי.
This word ashchit is
Ashchit.
the hifil lehashchit means to destroy.
את נעלתי
Nachalati.
גאל לך
Ge'al lecha.
וגאל לך אתה את גאולתי כי לא אוכל לגאול.
Yeah, this is legal, this is legal, this is legal. It's all the same word. And ge'al is the imperative. This word uchal. Any clue what that might mean? That's a nice form. Uchal. This is the future, first common singular, I, of which verb? Ani uchal. I will. Any guess? We haven't had this word.
Yahal. To be
Okay,
able.
he will be able is yuchal. Yachol. Yachol. Yachol is able. Uchal is the future. I will be able. So lo uchal ligol. I won't be able to redeem her.
Redeem. And the
So
Redeemer said, I cannot redeem.
For myself.
Yeah, for myself, because you said this I would destroy.
So pen means lest, or that I know.
lest I destroy Nahalati, my possessions, my inheritance.
Yeah, lest I ruin my own inheritance. Like by having to raise up children for a dead guy, I need my own children. I don't need somebody inheriting his. I need my own chances, to inherit what I have to my children. So he doesn't want to mess up his own inheritance.
Allah, that would be to
Galecha,
Galecha, to inherit to her.
you redeemer for yourself.
You inherit her.
And what's Geulati?
Is that the pual of inherit? Or to
It's actually
redeem?
the noun. It's a noun that comes from it. In this case, it would be my redeeming obligation. Okay, or my redeeming right. You yourself redeem my redemption. You're saying you take what's mine. It's fine. I can't do it. You go ahead and do it. Right. And then we have that same line again. Lo haliglo, ligol. I can't do it. Okay. We're in verse 7. Vizot lefanim b'Israel al hageulah v'al hatmura לקיים כל דבר שלף איש נעלו ונתן לרעהו. וזאת התעודה בישראל. Tauda is a certification. It's like, how do you certify something? So, and this, in the past time, lifanim would be, in this case, like lifnei, before. This used to be in Israel concerning the right of redemption and concerning like trading things out. Tmura is like you give me something for something else. Lekayem kol davar, to establish any matter. Shalaf ish naalo, a man would take off his shoe. Naalo, he would take off his shoe, and he would give it venatan lere'ehu. He would give it to his fellow, and this was a certification in Israel, like a certification of an agreement, okay, or a testimony. Tu'udah could be like testifying to something, like a testament to something, or certification of something. Okay. Next, Hosea.
Okay. Vayomer Boaz לזקנים וכל העם. עדים אתם היום כי קניתי את כל אשר לאלימלך ואת
Elimelech.
כל אלימלך, ואת כל אשר לכליון ומחלון. Miyad Naomi. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, Edim of the congregation. Is that from Edut?
No.
No, what's Edim?
Lehaid is to give testimony. You are witnesses.
Okay. To the people. You are witnesses this day that...
Yeah, you are witnesses today that...
that I bought or I acquired all which Elimelech, all that belongs to Elimelech, and all that belongs to Kilion and Machlon from the hand of Naomi.
Beautiful, fantastic.
Okay.
Here we go. Word. You got a nice long verse.
וגם את רות המואבית,
Moavia.
מואביה, אשת מחליון,
Machlon.
Ganiti. Ganiti li. Le ha ki Ahmet al-Alato
Al-Nakhalato.
velo hat me'im chav
Mhm.
mishal what's my
Misha'al.
place?
Sha'al is from the gate.
Oh, Misha'ar.
Misha'al.
Misha'ar mi como edim atim hayom. And also Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon,
Mhm.
I have purchased to me.
Or I've acquired for myself.
For myself, right.
Mhm.
So that's to the woman.
Or for a wife.
For
I've
a wife,
acquired
as
for
a wife.
myself, for a wife. Mhm.
And le hakim, that I don't know.
Le hakim, it's from kum. It's a hifil form. Le hakim,
to raise up.
To establish.
Le hakim.
To raise up.
The name of the dead. On for Nahalon. Ikare.
So to raise up the name of the dead over his inheritance, or over his
over his inheritance, and to Ikare, I don't know. And to not cut off his name from the dead.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. From with Ehav. I don't know, Ehav.
So think of Ach. Ach means brother.
From his
and
brothers.
Achiv, yeah. Achiv means
his
brother. His brother, one brother, Achiv. And if you've got more than one brother, it's Achim, and then his brothers are Echav. So, and that the name of the dead one not be cut off from with his brothers.
And from the gates, from a
Makom.
Oh, the place.
Mm-hmm.
Place.
From his place. From the gates of his place.
Edim, is that the witness?
Mm-hmm. Witnesses.
Witnesses, you witness here today. All of you witness here today.
You are witnesses today. Great. This is kind of interesting. The Sha'ar Makomo, gate of his place. Obviously, this means the same thing as what he said before, where he said, I think he said the gate of my people. Yeah, he said right there. I know that's the Canadian. Where's this gate of my people? Okay. U'ala sha'ar. Let's see. Zikna'il. I thought that the word gate was used here again, but I don't see it. It might have been in the previous chapter that we read.
But you used the word gate a little earlier. I remember it. I don't know where.
Yeah,
mhm.
I think I was the one who read that. Anyhow.
Yeah, I don't know. But what's interesting about it is there's a commandment in the Torah that says that on the Shabbat, on the Sabbath day, you're not allowed to leave your place. And there's a lot of debate in rabbinic literature. What does the word place mean? Does it mean your home? Or you're not allowed to leave your home on the Shabbat? Does it mean your neighborhood? Does it mean your city? What does the word makomo, his place, or your place, makomcha, what does it mean? But this would seem to indicate that it could be used to mean the city, because shar makomo, the gate of his place, means the gate of his city. This is a city gate. So it might be that when the Torah says you're not allowed to leave your place, it actually means you're not allowed to leave the city in which you live on the Shabbat, or the city that you're in on Shabbat. Very interesting. In other words, you're not allowed to go out and travel between cities on Shabbat, even walking. That's what it would seem to me. Okay, so we finished 10 verses out of the 4th chapter of Ruth. That gives you a good start toward finishing up the chapter by Tuesday. This was not the easiest of topics. The whole idea of the third week verb roots. It's something that I enjoy, but I'm kind of a strange one. I enjoy things that other people don't enjoy with regard to Hebrew. So I wanted to share before we go a blog post that I put together that I just released yesterday morning about third week, actually about doubly week of roots. Let me share that with you real quick before we go so you can see this. This is the blog on the Hebrew Cafe on our website. So this one I called Doubly Weak and Proud of It. Most of the time when people think of doubly weak verbs, they hate them, or of weak verbs generally, like Jonathan was saying that he hates them. I think they're a joy. I think they're the most enjoyable of the verbal roots because they make you think, and I like things that make me think. So you can read through this if you want to later on, but I talk about specifically the changes that some of the roots go through,
Doubly weak.
Especially the ones that have 2 weak roots in them, which that's doubly weak, mean that they have doubled. They've got one in the beginning and one at the end, which like most of the time it's a nun in the beginning and a hey at the end. Like this root naka, like this root. The root nun kaf hey actually is in the hifil hika, like he struck or he hit, lakot, to strike. So I actually go through the pattern here. The hifil perfect third masculine singular pattern is hiktil, that's the pattern. And here I've got the pattern laid out, where you, with each of these circles, you'd replace the circle with a root letter. Okay, that's the pattern. So if you have this root, naga, which is to touch, when you put it in the hifil, it means to arrive. You've got the ayin on the end, which is guttural. You've got the nun in the beginning, which tends to disappear when it's up against another consonant. So it's hey, it's he, then nu, and then gimel with yod, and ayin, it becomes hingia, where the nun assimilates because it doesn't like to be up against it, and you get higia, and then it reduces to a dagesh chazak and becomes higia. Higia is the real form that means he arrived, but it goes through these changes, and those are the interesting changes. This is only regular weak with a guttural, but I give 2 examples of doubly weak and what happens here. This laktil is the infinitive construct of the hifil. So lehaktil, it has the same pattern with the circles for the root. We would insert the root. Lehanti, okay, lehanti. The nun and the tet don't like to be together, so they become lat-ti, like this. and we know that the He at the end of these roots becomes ot. So we actually get the form lehatot. Lehatot is the real form, but this is the changes you have to go to get to it. Lehatot. So when you're trying to recognize the root, you see the form latot, and then you immediately see that this could be PL, because it could have a double middle radical, or it could be hifiel and have the he prefix with that nun assimilated, and the ot is most definitely a third He. And then you try to work back to the root to understand where it comes from. So I did a bit of explanation on this, so you can kind of think through it. Because it is the things that we're getting into now in our class, that we're talking about the weak roots and how they behave and stuff. So I figured I'd write up a blog post and let you know about that. Okay. Any questions or anything that strikes you as particularly difficult that we should handle before you go? No? How do you feel? What's your reaction?
Just practice is needed.
Yeah, the same. And exposure to these forms.
Right.
I know I say it about a lot of things, but when I studied Hebrew grammar, I didn't memorize all of this stuff and I didn't know it. And it's perfectly fine not to. Because right now your purpose is to get to a point where you have some kind of reading fluency, and that means being able to when you stop on a form, you say, what is that? And then to be able to think through it and to figure out that it's hifiel and it's third week and whatever it is, and get back to where you can look up a meaning for the word. Or if you see it parsed in your reader's Bible at the bottom, you see it parsed, you'll say, okay, I can kind of understand how it went through changes to get to that form, but you don't need to be able to say right now that higia means he arrived. I didn't learn how to do that until I started to speak Hebrew, and then the words became something that I was using and not something that I was analyzing. But right now you need to learn how to analyze the forms when you're reading, to be able to stop and say, okay, what is that? And to get back to some kind of idea of what it means more than how to form it. So I don't expect you to memorize anything that we went over today. If you understand that all of the perfect in the nifal, the PL, pual, all of the perfect, they have the same endings as the kal endings. And the kal endings we went over again and again and again so you would get them. Because the kal endings and the prefixes in the imperfect, they're going to be the same in all the other binyanim. So the idea is to get comfortable with the endings and with the prefixes in the imperfect, so that when you see them in other binyanim, you'll recognize them. Not that you will know perfectly what they are.
Recognition. Okay? Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I need to go back and we'll finish Ruth, and then I need just to go back and regularly read Ruth until I can read it and it makes sense, which is what my long-term plan is.
Fantastic. They have a more analysis-driven workbook by Robert Chilson called Workbook for Intermediate Hebrew. And notice it says grammar, exegesis, and commentary on Jonah and Ruth. So it gives you a section, and then you're supposed to, it asks you, what is this form? Parse this form. Tell us why it's like this, what it means, and it's very exegesis heavy. It's really I've never worked through it because there's never anyone wanted to work through it with me, but it's definitely worth looking for. If you want to buy it yourself, and if Ruth is an important book for you to learn from, I think that this has a lot of insights that you'd come away with. So anyway, that's called a Workbook for Intermediate Hebrew. And we're at that point. We're at the point where we could technically stop calling this class beginning biblical Hebrew and start calling it intermediate.
Wow.
When we're reading directly from the Bible and not using the workbook, we're not using it at all. We're just reading from the Bible. That's intermediate level. You're there. So All right.
Great.
As far
Okay,
as I'm
thank you
concerned,
so
we're finished
much.
with this one. Next week is going to be the first week. That's the first Vav and first Yod. Lots of exciting things happen whenever, especially in the Nifal and the Hifil. So we'll look at that next week, and we'll read Ruth 4 on Tuesday.
So how often do you encounter verbs in the various binyanim?
All the time. All the time.
So they're all very commonly used?
The hufal is going to be used less than anything. The hitpa'el becomes more and more common as you get into later Hebrew. It is used early on, but it becomes really common in late biblical Hebrew, in Mishnaic Hebrew, in modern Hebrew. We use it for so many things. But like the hitpa'el was really nebulous to me when I was learning biblical Hebrew, and it didn't really have a lot of uses to me. I really think that once you start to speak Hebrew, then it starts to come into your consciousness. But at this point, basically be able to recognize that if it's hit, mit, yit, tit, any of those prefixes on the beginning, there's a good chance that it's hitpa'el. But it doesn't really mean much to you at this point. I'll try to find some examples so that I can like pull them out and say, look, this is an important verse, and this important verse uses the hitpa'el, that kind of thing. I'll try to fish some of those out for next week. All right. All right,
Okay.
guys. We'll see you on Tuesday for Ruth chapter 4. I hope that John will be joining us next week, if I understand correctly. And hopefully we'll be able to get him caught up and back with us, and then we'll be able to finish out this course. We should be finished by, because of the delay, I think the 9th of October. It's the second week of October. So we're closing up on it. We're going to finish Ruth. We're going to finish Jonah, and I'll pick something else small. Maybe a prophet that we can look through. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jonathan.
See you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.